Beneath the rolling green fields of Illinois, just across the Mississippi River from the modern skyline of St. Louis, lies the ghost of a city. Not a city of glass and steel, not a relic of colonial days, but something far older and far stranger. A city that once held more people than London. A place where pyramids of earth scraped the sky, where processions of priests wound their way up grand staircases, and where the pulse of a forgotten civilization once beat like a drum in the heart of America. Today, we call it Cahokia. But 1,000 years ago, it was the great metropolis of the Mississippi Valley, and its story is one we're only just beginning to understand. Picture the year 1050 AD. Europe is building castles and cathedrals, the Song dynasty rules in China, and in the Americas, far from the eyes of history books, the city of Cahokia is rising from the flat floodplains. Here, an expanse of over 6 square miles hums with life, an urban landscape of earthen pyramids, wooden palisades, thatched roof houses, and broad ceremonial plazas. At its center towers a mound so massive, it seems impossible it was built by hand, Monk's Mound, the largest prehistoric earthwork in the Americas, its base covering more ground than the Great Pyramid of Giza. This was no small settlement. Archaeologists believe Cahokia's population may have reached 20,000, and that's just the urban core. The surrounding countryside held tens of thousands more. In an era when Paris barely scraped past that number, this was a North American powerhouse. Traders brought shells from the Gulf Coast, copper from the Great Lakes, obsidian from the Rockies. Cahokia's influence rippled out along rivers like veins, connecting cultures in a network that stretched for thousands of miles. And yet, for centuries, almost no one remembered it existed. When Europeans first pushed into the Mississippi Valley in the 17th and 18th centuries, they found towering earthen mounds scattered across the landscape, some still sharp in outline, others softened into green hills by time and weather. The local Illini people told of these being built by ancient ones, not their ancestors, but a people who had long vanished. European settlers, steeped in their own prejudices, refused to believe Native Americans could have built such works. Wild theories took root. The mounds were the work of lost tribes of Israel, of wandering Phoenicians, of a vanished race wiped out before the arrival of Columbus. The truth was stranger, and closer to home. Archaeology would later reveal Cahokia as the capital of what we now call the Mississippian culture, a civilization that flourished between 800 and 1400 AD. The Mississippians were master planners, their city laid out with a precision that spoke to deep astronomical knowledge. Monk's Mound faced directly toward the cardinal points, the plazas aligned with the solstices and equinoxes, and to the east of the city stood a wooden calendar known today as Woodhenge, a great circle of posts that marked the sun's yearly journey. Imagine standing there on the dawn of the summer solstice, watching the sun rise perfectly between two posts, the light flooding across the great plaza to strike the steps of Monk's Mound. This was a city built not just for living, but for ceremony, for power, for the binding together of earth and sky. Life in Cahokia was a blend of the sacred and the practical. Farmers worked the surrounding fields, coaxing maize from the rich bottomland soil. Hunters brought in deer, turkey, and fish from the rivers. In the city, artisans shaped clay into graceful pots, wove fabrics, carved shell into intricate pendants. The air was thick with the smell of wood smoke and roasting corn, the sound of drums and rattles echoing across the plazas. In the evenings, fires flickered atop the mounds, shadows dancing against the night sky. But Cahokia was not a peaceful Eden. Evidence suggests a society marked by stark inequalities. The elite lived atop the great mounds, their homes larger and better built, while commoners clustered in tightly packed neighborhoods. Burial sites reveal lavish offerings for some: copper plates, mica sheets, carved stone figurines, and simple interments for others. One grave, known as Mound 72, holds the remains of a man laid out on a bed of shell beads, surrounded by more than 250 other skeletons, many young women, likely sacrificed to accompany him into the afterlife. Here, religion and power were deeply intertwined, and ceremony could be both awe-inspiring and brutal. And then, just as swiftly as it rose, Cahokia began to fall. By the 1300s, the population had dwindled. The great plazas grew quiet. Houses were abandoned. Palisades fell into disrepair. Within a century or two, the city was gone, its mounds left to grass and silence. What happened? The theories are many, and each carries a whisper of truth. Some point to environmental strain. The fertile floodplain could only support so many mouths, and deforestation, overhunting, and soil depletion may have tipped the balance. Others see the hand of climate. A series of droughts during the so-called Little Ice Age could have crippled the maize harvests that fed the city. Still others note signs of conflict, burned palisades, mass graves, hinting at warfare or internal unrest. Perhaps it was all of these together, the slow tightening of resources, the fraying of political and spiritual authority, until people simply walked away. And so Cahokia slipped into the past, not with a cataclysm, but with a long exhale. Today, standing on top of Monk's Mound, you can look out over the grassy expanse and see the faint lines where plazas once bustled, where Woodhenge once marked the seasons. The highway hums nearby, freight trains rumble past, and the skyline of St. Louis glints in the distance. It's a strange juxtaposition, the deep past and the modern present staring at each other across the Mississippi. For centuries, Cahokia was left off the map of American history, its scale and significance downplayed or ignored. Only in recent decades has it begun to claim its place as one of the great cities of the ancient world. And yet, its mysteries remain. Who exactly were its rulers? How far did their influence stretch? What ideas, what stories, what beliefs were lost when its plazas fell silent? Some archaeologists think we're only scratching the surface. Ground-penetrating radar has revealed hidden structures beneath the soil, whole neighborhoods yet to be excavated. Artifacts hint at connections not just across the continent, but perhaps to distant cultures we've yet to fully trace. And always, there is the question of why. Why here? Why then? And why did it end? Cahokia reminds us that history is not a straight line from primitive to modern. Civilizations rise, flourish, and fade, sometimes leaving little more than mounds in a field. But those mounds hold stories of ambition, of ingenuity, of the will to shape the earth itself. As the sun sets over the Illinois plain, the grass ripples in the wind, and for a moment, you can almost see it. The city as it was. The plazas filled with dancers in feathered headdresses, the smell of cedar smoke in the air, the great mounds glowing gold in the evening light. You can almost hear the drums, steady and low, carrying across the miles, the heartbeat of a city that, for a time, was the center of its world. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the ancient heart of America. Do you think Cahokia's fall was inevitable, a victim of nature, of human ambition, or something else entirely? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this journey into the unknown, please like, comment, and share. It truly helps keep these stories alive.